Hello from me, Lazar Hristov. We continue with the next lesson of the CSS course. We have now reached Chapter 8, How to Make Elements Available on a Web Page. Open the PDF file. An important thing about any web page is the layout and placement of the elements on it. There is a special term created to designate the way of arranging elements in an HTML page. In English this term is layout, in Russian it is. In Bulgarian, there is no exact term for this, which is one word, there is none. And this term layout can be translated as a way of arrangement, layout or mockup. As we have already learned from the chapters on HTML, over the years, the layout of web pages has been done in several different ways. Initially, it was just text layout, then frames were used, then tables were used, then tables, but all these methods have long been outdated and using them for page layout is considered bad practice. Modern websites mainly use the block layout. Before HTML5, this was done through the block div elements, and in HTML5 the idea is to replace these blocks, or at least the main ones, with semantic elements. How much this will be realized in practice, time will tell. Here are the basic mockups for a web page layout, presented schematically. In many cases, the layout of sites is done according to the following scheme: the header part, navigation, content, left sidebar and footer, lower part. As the sidebar can be on the right, there is also a variant with two sidebars on both sides. The content is in the middle. And there is also a variant in which the navigation menu is not located separately as a horizontal top, but is located in the sidebar. Then the site will looks like this, and the simplest option, when the navigation menu is located in the upper part of the header, and without a sidebar, and the site has only 3 blocks. This option, with such a site, was very rare some time ago, mainly in academic circles. But now in the last few years, with the imposition of this strange idea that you should only make adaptive designs, so that they can be used on any device, it's already very common. Because it's a simple and minimalist option. The next point is layout via CSS. Before we show the specific codes to achieve such layouts, we will recall once again the basic blocks that we will use in the layout. We won't be using the semantic blocks for now, we'll include them later so you can get an idea of how things were done before. The top part of the site header usually contains the titles, the logo and other information about the authors, or the company's activities. It may also contain a navigation menu. A navigation menu defines a set of navigation links. Usually they are in the form of a navigation bar, which is located under the header and serves as links to other pages. A sidebar usually contains headings, links, thematic links, and so on. And it can also contain the site's navigation menu. The main content presents the most important things about the site through text, images, and more. It can be divided into separate sections. The footer usually contains information about copyright, contacts, a site map, and other explanations. It may also contain a navigation menu or part of it. We continue with the layout, and we will start with the simplest option 1, the column layout. For this purpose we create 3 blocks and format them. The code is as follows. In this case we will use classes, but identifiers can also be used. After our example we will show this, and by the way there is an interesting case study on this topic: when should you use classes and when should you use identifiers? In this case, this is irrelevant for our tutorial example, but in general it is good to remember the following: identifiers are usually used when there is only one such element on the page and are higher priority, and classes are usually used when we want to format multiple elements in a certain way. When executing this code in the browser we will see the following. We continue with the so-called 2-column layout, for which purpose we will add another block, and here we will use identifiers, so that, as we said, you can see how it works with them. The code is as follows. And here you see that. This version has some peculiarities compared to the previous example. For your convenience, we have removed all frames and indents, and we show one of the easiest ways to place 2 blocks next to each other, horizontally. This is done as follows. On the block that should be on the left, we set a certain width, for example 25%, and then float left to move it to the left of the document flow. And for the other, the right block, we set for the width of the remaining part 75%, so that the sum of the widths is equal to the total width, which is 100%, and we set it margin left, that is left indent, 25%, and it takes up the remaining space in this part. If we want the sidebar to be on the right, and the block with the main content on the left, then instead of left we write right in the code. In the next example, we'll also add a navigation menu, and this is what the site looks like the one we were looking at. In the following example, we will add another column to the right, change the widths, and add another row to make a 3-color layout. This and the previous layout can be achieved, and only by setting all columns to float left, without using margin left 25% or margin right. The widths of the columns may not be set in percentages, but may be fixed sizes, while for the rest, the only rule to be observed is their widths should not exceed the width of the parent block. Additional code recommendations: when writing code on a real site, at the bottom of the footer it is good to add one line, which will remove the action of float. Otherwise, if the left or right column gets longer, the footer will start to wrap around them. If borders or paddings are set for blocks in the code, when calculating these dimensions must be added to the widths and adjustments must be made to some of the dimensions, otherwise they will not get correct rendering. For this purpose, you can also use the rule/property box sizing, border box, which we discussed in the previous lesson. And one more thing very important: when learning CSS it's good to try everything in practice and in different ways. This way you will face many problems and difficulties and you will learn to overcome and solve them. That's all for the first part of this lesson. Best regards.